the last class, then we'll move towards our today's lecture content. So basically, in the last class, I have discussed about stability of submerged and the floating bodies on a static fluid that we have discussed. So basically, for both the cases, in case of submerged body, we have seen for a stable equilibrium condition. What I have told you that the center of gravity should be below center of buoyancy. That is the important condition to achieve stable equilibrium when the body is submerged. Okay, and for a floating body, the condition for the stable equilibrium is that the metacentric height or the metacenter should be above center of gravity, or metacentric height should be positive. Right? So this was the condition for you can say stable equilibrium for floating bodies. Okay, and then we tried to discuss some numericals also. We discussed some numericals on these stability conditions, and then at the end we tried to solve some objective questions based on the entire unit 1. Fine. Now from today's class, we'll try to start discussing over unit 2.
Sir,
Basically,
sir,
yes,
uh, sir, I
yes,
joined late, sir, just now, sir. Attendance.
Shivam, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let me see. Shivam Bharadwaj.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay, coming back to the lecture part. See, today I was telling you that today I'm going to discuss unit 2. We are going to start unit 2. Unit 2 is basically about fluid kinematics. Like in the previous case, where it was statics. Statics means the fluid was at rest. And whenever the fluid was at rest, what are the phenomena, what are the concepts, what are the principles, what is the physics behind the fluid statics that we had discussed in the previous unit. And basically, if I need to conclude the fluid statics, we just need to focus on two forces, pressure force and the weight of the fluid. Fine. So if we are balancing, or if we are focusing on these two forces, we were dealing with fluid statics. Now in case of fluid kinematics, so what we will discuss basically, the kinematics is the meaning of the kinematics is movement or the motion. Fine. So in this particular unit, we'll discuss about fluid in motion. Okay, so fluid will not be at rest. We will be discussing about fluid in motion. And whenever we are discussing about motion, so motion always motion is always related with velocity and acceleration. So basically in this unit, we will be discussing about the fluid velocity and fluid acceleration, and whatever the consequences regarding velocity and acceleration of the fluid particles, that we will be discussing under this unit. Okay. So that is the introduction of unit 2. If we move to the next slide, we'll see fluid kinematics. Okay, you can see this word kinematics. Kinematics is related with the motion. Right? So when we see about fluid kinematics, it is the study of fluid which is in motion, fluid in transit or fluid in motion. Right? So that is what we will discuss under this topic, fluid kinematics. We will discuss all the phenomena, all the principles related with the movement of the fluid under this topic. Now, when we talk about fluid kinematics, we will be majorly focused on the velocity and acceleration of the fluid particles. Okay, under fluid kinematics. Fine. So as I have told you that it is a study of fluid in motion. Fine. So this fluid kinematics or this study can be you can say carried out, or this study can be done in two ways. Okay, there are two ways to study fluid kinematics. Fine. So there are two ways. Like the two ways are, either it could be studied in the way of Lagrangian description, or it can be studied in the way of Eulerian description. Right? So I'll tell you that what is Lagrangian description and what is Eulerian description. Let's try to see. Okay. So I was telling you that what is the meaning of fluid kinematics. Then I was telling you that we will study. It's a study of the fluid in motion. Fine. So there are two ways to carry out this study. First way is the Lagrangian description, and second way is the Eulerian description. Now, what happens in Lagrangian description? If I need to discuss Lagrangian description, try to visualize, try to observe, or try to assume a fluid which is flowing. Okay. Now, when this fluid is flowing, what we need to do is we need to observe each. If we are observing the movement of each and every fluid particle, let's say there was a fluid flowing. Fine. Let's say this is a fluid which is flowing. Fine. So in this flowing of the fluid, if we observe individual fluid particle, let's say this is an individual fluid particle A, this is individual fluid particle B, and this is individual fluid particle C. There could be millions of the fluid particle. So if we focus on individual fluid particle, and if we track its position, if we track its velocity, if we track its acceleration, whatever the you can say parameters related with the movement or the motion. So parameters which are related with the motion is the position, displacement, velocity, and acceleration. So if we track these parameters for individual fluid particle, fine, in a fluid flow. And such type of study or such a way of study is called as Lagrangian description. So what Lagrangian has done, Lagrangian has studied individual fluid particles for their movement. Right? So such type of description is called as Lagrangian description. See, why it is important to understand is, again, in terms of exam also, this could be asked to you as an objective question, that if the individual fluid particles, if the movement of the individual fluid particle is tracked, so what kind of study it is? Eulerian approach, Lagrangian approach, or some other options could be given. Fine. So you should understand, if we are studying the individual fluid particle, such type of study is called as Lagrangian description. Okay. Now, on the other hand, on the contrary, what we have, like in the Eulerian approach, we will not study the individual fluid particle, but what we will do, we will assume a control volume. Now, you may remember this term or you may not. Control volume. Let's say this is a space. Control volume, I can say in a simple term, it's a confined space. It's a confined space in a fluid flow. Let's say if I assume a river is flowing. Let's say I assume a river is flowing. Fine. So in this river, there could be millions of the fluid particles. So it's very difficult to track each and individual particle. So what we can assume is, we can assume we can fix a particular area in the river flow. Right? So when the river was flowing, we can assume a very small area in the river flow, and in this area, what is the net movement of the fluid? What is the net movement of the fluid within this volume, within this control volume? If I study that, if I study the parameters, the flow motion parameters under this particular fixed volume, find such type of studies called as Eulerian description. Now, for the as such example of the Eulerian description, I can say is like when you see flow through a turbine. Okay, when the fluid enters into the turbine and it leaves through the turbine, so we'll see that its velocity has increased or its pressure has decreased. Right? So such type of movement, when you observe the movement of the fluid through a turbine, so I can say it's a Eulerian description. Fine. But when you see, let's say if the fluid is flowing, fine, and what you do, you inject the ink in the fluid flow. Fine. So what will happen, you will see the ink particles are flowing separately, okay, in some layers. Fine. So such type of study is called as Lagrangian approach. Fine. Eulerian approach and Lagrangian approach, confusion should be clear, that what is Eulerian approach. In Eulerian approach, we will fix a particular volume, and inside that particular volume, we will study the movement of the fluid. So that is called as Eulerian approach. And in Lagrangian approach, we study each and every individual fluid particle and its motion parameters like velocity, position, or I can say acceleration. Right? So such type of description is called as Lagrangian approach. I hope it is clear. Any doubts are there? Yes. Yes.
No, sir.
So what's the example of Lagrangian description?
Lagrangian description, see, as such, I told you that if you assume a fluid is flowing, fine. Let us try to assume if you open a tap, okay, if you open a tap, water will start flowing down to the tap, fine. Now what you do is you just inject some ink in the tap. Suppose if you open a tap, you just inject a ink near to the tap. Okay, so what will happen, that ink will start flowing along with the water, but you can track the movement of the ink also. Ink will not completely be disappeared in the water. You can track the movement of the ink. Fine. So that means the ink particle can be easily tracked with the help of among the water particles. Fine. So the movement of when you are tracking the movement of ink particles, such type of study is called as, or such type of observation is called as Lagrangian approach. Fine. So that is one example. So there is no, I can not figure out what are the practical approaches or practical establishment of the Lagrangian approach. Just like in case of Eulerian approach, I have given it one example like turbine or a pump. These are the example of the Eulerian approach. But the practical, you can say, applications of Lagrangian approach, I am not able to figure out at this moment, and I don't see that there are many practical approaches of the Lagrangian description, because it is very difficult to carry out the Lagrangian observations. Because if you need to track individual fluid particles, it gets very complicated and difficult. Okay. Therefore, most of the study follows Eulerian description. Yes.
सर cavitation इसका example हो सकता है क्या Lagrangian description?
Cavitation, no, but cavitation, see, cavitation is not one of the feature of fluid movement. See, we are studying about fluid kinematics. So fluid kinematics means we are focusing on the movement of the fluid, and cavitation is the phenomena, that is the formation of the pits, formation of the holes due to the bubble formation. You can say that, like, if the bubble is forming, right? Let's say if the bubble is forming due to boiling, so that traveling of the bubble, you can track the traveling of that bubble. So that can be an example of a Lagrangian approach. You can focus on one bubble and you can track its movement. to travel this to this location, how much time it has taken. So you can track its velocity and acceleration of the bubble. So that kind of an example of a Lagrangian description. But cavitation on a whole is not an example. Okay.
Okay.
All right. So that is what we had discussed about Lagrangian description and Eulerian description. Let us move to the next part. The next part in this slide, we are going to discuss about that what are the various types of fluid flow. Since the topic is fluid kinematics, so in kinematics we will be discussing about movement of the fluid. Yes.
Sir, in book, it is in which chapter, sir? I am not able to find it, sir.
I think directly the chapter name is fluid kinematics. R.K. Bansal.
In that, chapter 5 is kinematics of flow and ideal flow. That one, sir.
That's the same topic.
Okay, sir.
I have shared the PDF with you of the book R.K. Bansal book. It's a full book now, so you can
Sir,
find it.
unit 1 is still continuing, sir.
No, unit 1 is over in the last class. Stability was the last topic.
Okay. Yes, sir.
Okay. So if we need to discuss type of fluid flow, so there could be different types of fluid flow. If you remember in the first unit, we discussed about different types of fluid. Can anyone tell me what are the different types of fluids? If you remember, we have seen a graph also between shear stress and velocity gradient. Do you remember?
So ideal fluid.
Yes, there were some examples like Idean fluid, Newtonian fluid, okay, non-Newtonian fluid, ideal plastic fluid. Fine. So those are the different types of fluid. In this case, we are going to discuss about different types of fluid flow. So fluid flow and fluid are separate things. So don't get confused. There could be some, at some point you can get confused also. So we are going to discuss about different types of the fluid flow in this case. Fine. Now the fluid flow, these are the names. We will discuss one by one, each of them. Fine. So first category of the fluid flow is called as steady and unsteady flows. Fine. So what are steady and unsteady flow? We'll try to understand, or you can easily get an idea from the name itself also. Steady means it should be independent with respect to time. Steady whenever whenever nothing is changing, whenever something is not changing with respect to time, that is called as steady. Fine. Like nowadays we are steady in our you can say places due to lockdown. So we are steady. We are not changing our position. We are in our rooms or we are in our houses. So these are the steady conditions. Right? So when you are not changing, when something is not changing with respect to time, so that is called a steady. So that's something in terms of fluid flow. So in terms of fluid flow, that something could be called as parameters of the motion. Now, what are the parameters of the motion? I have told you: position, velocity, and acceleration. Fine. So when the position or the velocity or the acceleration is not changing with time, they are constant with respect to time. So such type of movement are called as steady fluid flow. Like in this example is also given, when the velocity is not changing with respect to time, that means it is zero. The change of velocity with respect to time is zero. That means the velocity is constant. If the fluid is flowing at 30 km per hour, so it keeps on flowing at a speed of 30 km per hour. It is not changing, right, with respect to time. At all the times, it is flowing at the same velocity, right? So in that case, you can say it's a steady flow. Okay. So if the flow velocity is not changing with respect to time, such type of fluid flow is called as steady flow. Right? Otherwise, the vice versa of that will be like if the velocity is changing with respect to time. So such type of flow are called as unsteady flow. It is as simple as that. Right? If the velocity is not changing with respect to time, steady flow. If the velocity is changing with respect to time, unsteady flow. Okay. I hope it is clear. Next is uniform and non-uniform flows. So if we need to discuss what are uniform and non-uniform flows, so किसका mic है? Okay. Fine. See, uniform and non-uniform flow. Now, what are uniform flow? You can read from here also that, see, from the term itself, first we will try to understand the concept with the term. What do you mean by uniform? What does it mean if something is uniform? If something is uniform means it is same everywhere. Fine. That means with respect to position, it is same everywhere. Fine. So I can say that is uniform. So like velocity, if I'm talking about velocity, just a second. If I'm talking about velocity, velocity depends upon velocity of an object depends upon position coordinate. If you change the position, the velocity will change. So position coordinate can be x, y, z. Okay, and velocity also depends upon time. So there are 4 variables on which velocity can depend. 3 position coordinate and 1 is a time coordinate. Fine. So if the velocity is independent with respect to time, we can call such flow as steady flow. If the velocity is not changing with respect to time, such flows are called as steady flow. But if the velocity is not changing with respect to position, okay, if you assume a turbine or if you assume a control volume, in this control volume, if the fluid is flowing, okay, if the fluid is flowing, just the same example I have given earlier, if you assume a river is flowing, inside the river, if you assume a small volume, a small portion, so that is called as control volume. In this control volume, if you measure velocity at any position, let's say there are 3 positions, so if you measure the velocity at any 3 positions and if the velocity is still same, fine, so you can say that such type of flow is called as uniform flow, because velocity is not changing with respect to position, right? So such type of flow is called as uniform flow. And if the velocity is different at different points, so that will be a non-uniform flow. Fine. And now if what in basically, if I need to summarize these type of flow, uniform flow are the flows where the velocity will remain same at each point at different points, okay, at a particular instant of a time. If you measure the velocity at this position, at this position, at this position at the same time, okay, in the same time, fine, so such type of flow is called as uniform flow. Now if the velocity is different at these 3 points at the same time, fine, you can say that is a non-uniform flow. Okay, mathematically it can be written it like this: if the change in velocity with respect to position, s is the position, fine, if the change in velocity with respect to position at a particular time is 0, that means the velocity is not changing with respect to position, so such type of flow are called as uniform flow. Why this mathematical expression is also important? Because this could be given in the question. Okay, you can be this could be written in the question, and it will be asked to you what type of flow it is it a steady flow, is it a uniform flow, non-uniform flow, okay, compressible flow. So based upon the mathematical expression also, you should be able to identify that this is a uniform flow because the velocity is not changing with respect to time. Okay, getting it? And next is, if the velocity is changing with time, that means velocity is not equal to 0 with respect to change in position. So such type of flows are called as non-uniform flow. Okay. So uniform and non-uniform flow should be clear to you. Next type of flow is a laminar and a turbulent flow. Fine. So again, very famous terms. We have, yes, any doubts? Okay. So the next type of flow is a laminar and a turbulent flow. See, you study these terms from a very basic classes also whenever we talk about fluid flow. So laminar flow are called as layered or orderly mannered flow. Like when you open a tap and with small pressure, with a small flow velocity. Fine? इसका mic है. Shashwat? Okay. So when we talk about laminar flow means when the fluid is flowing in an orderly manner in layers. Fine. So such type of flow is called as laminar flow. Like when the fluid is flowing with small velocity, with slow velocity, with low velocity. Fine. Such type of flow are called as laminar flow. So in that case, all the fluid particles are flowing in a particular fashion, in a particular style. Okay. So such type of flow is called as laminar flow. But in turbulent flow, what happens? Fluid particles or fluid layers are flowing randomly. Okay, they are you can say intermixing with each other. Different layers are intermixing with each other. There is a random you can say style of flow that is not in an ordered manner, that is a zigzag manner. Fine. So such type of flow is called as turbulent flow. So laminar flow is a type of flow in which fluid flow with a well-defined path, okay, in a particular style. Fine. So such type of flow is called as laminar flow. And in the turbulent flow, if the fluid flow in a zigzag way, in a non-orderly manner. Fine. So such type of flow are called as turbulent flow. Okay. So this is called this is the laminar and the turbulent flow. And to classify any flow to be laminar and turbulent, how will you classify that this flow is laminar and this flow is turbulent? There is a, you can say, mathematical criteria is there to classify a flow as a laminar or turbulent. That mathematical criteria depends upon a number. It's a dimensionless number that is called as Reynolds number. Right? So basically, Reynolds has given a number according to which you can classify a flow to be laminar or a turbulent. Like in case, if I take an example, like if a fluid is flowing through a pipe, okay, now if the fluid is flowing inside a pipe, if the Reynolds number of that flow is less than 2000, fine, if the Reynolds number of a flow which is inside a pipe is less than 2000, we can consider such flow to be laminar. Fine. But if the Reynolds number is greater than 4000, if the Reynolds number is greater than 4000, such flow is called as turbulent flow. Fine. So inside a pipe, if the fluid is flowing Reynolds number less than 2000, it is called as laminar flow. And out inside the pipe, if the fluid, if the Reynolds number of the flow is more than 4000, such type of flow is called as turbulent flow. Okay. Now you can ask what will happen between 2000 to 4000 if the Reynolds number is between 2000 to 4000. What is happening? Okay. If the Reynolds number is between 4000 and 3000, so what kind of flow is it? Because I have told you that less than 2000 it is laminar, greater than 4000 it is turbulent. Between 4000 to 2000 the flow is called as transitional flow. Okay, the between 2000 and 4000 the flow will be called as transitional flow. Let me write it also here. So such type of flow is called as transitional flow. Transitional means it can transform into laminar also, it can transform into turbulent also. If the fluid velocity decreases, so it can be transformed into laminar flow, and if the fluid velocity is increased, it can be easily transformed to the turbulent flow. Fine. So if the Reynolds number is between 2000 to 4000 for flow inside a pipe, okay, such type of flow is called as transitional flow. Okay, so you should remember the importance of the Reynolds number. There is a formula of Reynolds number also given here. Fine. So the formula for the Reynolds number, you can see, this is the formula for the Reynolds number. Now, what are these quantities? This V is the flow velocity of the fluid flow. This D will be the diameter of the pipe inside which the fluid is flowing, and nu is called as kinematic viscosity. Right? We had discussed kinematic viscosity in the first unit. Kinematic viscosity was mu by rho, dynamic viscosity by density. Right? So, sorry, it is mu by rho. Okay, so that is kinematic viscosity. Mu by rho. Right? So that is Reynolds number. If you need to find Reynolds number of any flow, you should know its velocity. You should, if the flow is flowing inside a, you can say inside a pipe, so you should know the diameter of the pipe, and you should know the kinematic viscosity of the fluid. Okay, so then you can find the Reynolds number. So this is about laminar and turbulent flow. Next type of flow is called as compressible or incompressible flows. Now it is very it's a separate branch of you can say fluid mechanics, compressible flows, where we will study about you can say supersonic flows, or we will study about a flow through aeroplanes or rockets. So such type of flows are called as compressible flow. Why it is a separate branch? Because in that condition you can say we have some extra variables. Okay, we have some extra parameters for compressible flow. In fluid mechanics, we are not going to discuss in our particular topics. We are never going to discuss about compressible flow. For compressible flow, we have different courses. Right? So there is a separate branch of fluid mechanics to discuss compressible flow. Just for the introduction, I will tell you what is compressible flow. Basically, compressible flow, and you know this term also. Compressible means something which can get compressed. Now, what is the condition where something can get compressed? If you decrease its volume, if you can decrease its volume, then the something can be compressed. Okay.
Yes.
So, or you can say if the density of the particular object is, you can say when you are compressing something, when you are applying pressure on something, okay, its density will change. Fine. Now, if the density is changing, such type of flow is called as compressible flow. Right? So during a fluid flow, if the density is not constant, if the density gets changed, and such type of flow are called as compressible flow. Okay. Now, if the density remain constant, if the density is not changing, density remain constant, such flows are called as incompressible flow. Because incompressible means when you are applying pressure and the density is not changing, and that means the volume is also not changing. Fine. So such type of flow is called as incompressible flow. So basically, for you can say understanding in very simple terms, you can understand that compressible flow is something where the density is not changing. Fine. Sorry, that is an incompressible flow. If the density is not changing, that means density remain constant. And compressible means when the density is changing. Okay, I don't remember what I said earlier. When the density is changing means when you are compressing something, its density should change. Fine. So if the density is changing, such type of flow are called as compressible flow. Okay, if the density is changing, such type of flow are called as compressible flow. Like example, if I give you, like when the aeroplane is flying, okay, when an aeroplane is flying, what happens to the air which is coming in on the body of the aeroplane? See, when the jet aeroplane is flying, so the air which is coming in front or which is colliding with the surface of the aeroplane, that air will get compressed because the aeroplane is flowing with a very huge high velocity. Right? So the density of that airflow will change. Fine. Now, if the density of that airflow changes, in that case, we can say it's a compressible flow. Fine, because the aeroplane is flowing at a very high velocity, so the air density will change, which the air which comes into the contact with the surface of the aeroplane, its density will change. So such type of flow is called as compressible flow. But in case of rivers, when the river is flowing, fine, since the river is not flowing with a very high velocity, we can say that the density remains constant in that case. So such type of flow is called as incompressible fluid flow. Okay, so these are the examples also you can understand. Okay, so this was about compressible, incompressible flows. Next is about rotational and irrotational flows. Now, what are rotational and irrotational flow? You should understand. Okay. Now, again, with the basic terminology, we'll try to understand. Now, rotational means if something can rotate on its own axis, okay. Like the planets. Earth is rotating on its own axis. Fine. So that is called as rotational. Okay, so if something can rotate, let's say if this is a fluid particle and if it can rotate in its own axis, fine. So such type of movement is called as rotational, fine. And if it cannot rotate on its own axis, so such type of flow is called as irrotational. Now see, try to assume when a fluid is flowing, let's say when a fluid is flowing, okay, and this fluid may have different fluid particles. So those fluid particles are moving in the tangential direction, fine. But when they are moving in the tangential direction, they are also rotating on their own axis also. Okay, they are also rotating on their own axis also. So such type of flow is called as rotational flow. And if the fluid is flowing in the tangential direction, but it is not rotating on their own axis, so such type of flow are called as irrotational flow. Okay, so you should be clear about the meaning of rotational and irrotational flow. If the fluid particles are also rotating on their own axis, about their own axis during the fluid flow, such type of flow is called as rotational flow. Otherwise, it is a irrotational flow. Okay, so basically, such type of rotational flow, examples of rotational flow is whenever you see, mostly in case of turbulent flows, whenever the flow is in a random. Sorry.
Sir, tsunami time में तो rotate होता है sir.
Those are unorderly flows. So mostly in case of turbulent flows, we can have rotational flows. Fine. There is one more category of fluid flow which is called as vortex flow. Fine. So vortex flow may be there the fluid particles are rotating on their own axis. Vortex flow, example of the vortex flow, that means when you wash your hand in the wash basin. Fine. So in that case, the fluid make a swirl movement. Okay. Fluid make a swirl movement. So such type of flow also includes rotational flow. So these are certain examples of the rotational flow. Let's try to learn about the last type of flow, that is called as 1D, 2D or 3D flows. Fine. So 1D, 2D or 3D flow means 1D means the velocity or the movement particles, the movement, the motion parameters. Fine. Motion parameters like position, velocity and acceleration. Fine. Now, if the velocity, let's take velocity only. Let's say if the fluid particle have velocity in only one direction. One direction means only along x-axis. Fine. If the velocity of the fluid is only along x-axis, fine. So use the velocity of the fluid around the x-axis. Fine. Such it is, see, velocity is only available in the one direction. In the other direction, y-axis and z-axis, it is 0. Fine. So if the velocity is 0 in other axis, it is only exist only in one direction. So such type of flow is called as one-dimensional flow. Now, if the fluid is moving in the x direction also, u also and v also, fine. It is moving in the x direction and y direction, both the directions, fine. But it is not moving in the z direction, fine. So such type of flow is called as two-dimensional flows, fine. And third type of flow is whenever the velocity exists in all the three directions. So it's a very random flow. It's a very turbulent flow where the fluid velocity exists in all the three dimensions. So such type of flow are called as three-dimensional flow. There the velocity will exist in u, that is x direction. Velocity exists in y direction also, that is v. And velocity exists in z direction also, that is called as w. Fine. So if the velocity exists in all the three directions, so this is called as three-dimensional flow. Fine. So these are the different types of flow we are supposed to discuss. Okay. Steady and steady flow, uniform, non-uniform flow, laminar turbulent flow, compressible, incompressible flow, rotational, irrotational flow, and 1D, 2D, 3D flow. See, I have shared this slide with you, PPT with you, and whenever you study this PPT, always with this definition, always try to remember the mathematical expressions also for these flows. Like for 1D, 2D, 3D flow, if you see velocity as a function of x, y, z, fine, it's a 3D flow. If the velocity is a function of x and y only, not a function of z, so 2D flow. And if the velocity is a function of x only, not yz, fine, it's a 1D flow. So this is a mathematical expression of 1D, 2D, and 3D flow. Why I'm telling you to remember this, because of the objective questions that may be asked on these things.
Sir,
Yes.
Sir, means one doubt I was having, sir.
Sure,
Sir,
sure.
you have given the example of ink, sir.
Uh,
That ink was for l- that Illyrian or sir second one approach, sir.
Lagrangian approach. It was a Lagrangian approach.
Okay, and for Illyrian, sir.
Eulerian, if you see turbine, okay. So what happens in a turbine?
Yes,
Fluid enters into the turbine, okay, and it leaves the
yes, sir.
turbine. Suppose if the fluid enters in the turbine at a small velocity, at low velocity, and it leaves the turbine at high velocity. So we are not tracking
Mhm.
individual fluid particle inside the turbine. We are just saying what is the state of the fluid at the inlet and what is the state of the fluid at the outlet. Okay. So such type of
Okay,
study is called
okay,
as Eulerian approach.
okay, sir.
Okay. Fine. So let's try to move to the last topic of the day. The last topic of the day will be the discharge. There are these two topics: discharge and continuity equation in one dimension. Okay. So discharge, again, it's a very important term to study or to solve numerical problems. Basically, discharge is uh, Om Kumar. Om Kumar, any doubts?
सर यस सर
Yes.
सर ये जो रोटेशनल फ्लो है अगर हम एक पाइप में फ्लो की बात करें तो रोटेशनल फ्लो सबसे ज्यादा कहाँ पे होगा वॉल के पास या सेंटर पे
जहां पे भी डिस्टर्बेंस बहुत ज्यादा होगी ना, सपोज पाइप में जैसे आपने जॉइंट्स बनाया होगा, इफ देयर आर बेंड्स इन अ पाइप, फाइन, इफ देयर आर बेंड्स इन द पाइप, so what will happen? Suppose the fluid is flowing in this direction, fine, but at these bends what will happen? There will
वो
be
तो सर
it's
कॉर्नर में तो वॉर्टेक्स क्रिएट होगा
हाँ, vortex जनरेट होगा, eddies जनरेट होगा, eddies you can say that is eddies,
मैं
fine.
तो मैं वॉल के पास की बात कर रहा हूँ अगर पाइप में कहीं भी बेंड नहीं है तो उस केस में रोटेशनल फ्लो सबसे ज्यादा कहाँ पे होगा वॉल पे होगा या सेंटर पे होगा
पॉसिबिलिटी जहां पे भी रिस्ट्रिक्शन ज्यादा होगा, एंड द रिस्ट्रिक्शन विल बी हायर नियर टू द सरफेस, फाइन. तो वॉल के पास में
ये
पॉसिबिलिटी है, बट इट इज नॉट मैंडेटरी कि रोटेशनल फ्लो होगा ही वहां पे. It also depends upon the velocity and the orderly movement. If the flow is turbulent, then it is possible. If the flow is laminar, then the rotation chances of the rotational flow is very less. Okay.
ओके सर ओके थैंक यू सर
Okay. Now, if I need to discuss discharge is basically, if you see the definition of discharge is rate of flow of liquid. Now, rate of flow of liquid means we can measure liquid in terms of volume. Okay, so meter cube,
Yes.
and rate in terms of time, fine, seconds. So rate of flow of liquid through a particular cross section. So that is called as discharge. Suppose if I assume a pipe, in this pipe, I want to find discharge. So at this point, let's say at this point, fine, this is a cross section. So at this point, I want to measure that how much volume per second is flowing through this section, fine. So that is called as discharge. Q will be discharge means how much volume per second is flowing, through this cross section, that is called as discharge. Okay, so the definition of discharge should be clear. See, this discharge in terms of volume which we are calculating, so this discharge is also called as volume flow rate. Either you can call it discharge or you can call it volume flow rate. But if you measure in terms of mass, if I measure this in terms of mass of the fluid per second, so those are called as mass flow rate. So discharge can be of two types: volume flow rate or mass flow rate, fine. So if I'm checking the volume per second, so that will be a volume flow rate. If I'm checking mass of fluid flowing per second, so that is called as mass flow rate. In this particular unit, we will be talking about only volume flow rate. Okay, so there is no mass flow rate. Mass flow rate we will be discussing in unit 6, when unit 5 or unit 6, whenever we study about turbines. So there we will talk about mass flow rate also. But here discharge means we will talk about volume flow rate. Okay.
Sir,
Am I audible? Hello.
yes, sir.
Okay. Just wait for 2 minutes. Let other two join. Then we'll discuss it again.
Sir, here in PPT it has written, sir, Q equal to area into volume. But
Area
you
into
said
volume.
that
No, it's area into this V is not volume. This V is velocity. Okay, we have different terms.
okay, yes, sir, yes, sir.
We'll discuss it. Don't worry. Okay, let us you can say resume our discussion. See, I was discussing what do you mean by discharge? So basically, the meaning of discharge I was discussing with you. Discharge is basically the volume of fluid flowing through a particular cross section in a particular time. Fine. So that is called as discharge or volume flow rate. And when you measure it in terms of mass of fluid flowing through a particular cross section in a particular time interval, that is called as mass flow rate. This V is volume right now. Okay, this V is volume. I should write it VOL. This is volume flow rate. Fine. So volume per second or mass per second through a particular cross section, that is called as discharge. Fine. So mathematically, either you can, if you know the volume of a fluid, then you can find with respect to time, you can find the discharge. But in most of the practical application, what will happen is, like in case of, since we are studying fluid kinematics, so in fluid kinematics, if I'm observing the flow velocity of the fluid, if you know the velocity of the fluid flow, fine, what you can do is, and you know the size of your pipe, if you know the cross section area of the pipe, fine. So if you multiply velocity, let me write velocity to be VE, fine. So if you know velocity and cross section area of the pipe, okay. So what will happen if you multiply area and velocity? This V is the velocity, okay. This V is velocity. Okay, so if you can multiply cross-section area of the pipe with velocity of the fluid flow, that is also discharge. Now, how can you, you can say confirm this thing is, like what is the unit of area? Unit of area is meter square. Okay, and unit of velocity is meter per second. Okay, now if you multiply both of them, it will become meter cube per second. It will become meter cube per second. And you know what is the unit of volume? Unit of volume is also meter cube. Fine. So it is volume and second is time. Fine. So I can say discharge is either volume per, I can say volume flow rate, not discharge. Let's say discharge and volume flow rate, both are the same terms. So if I say a discharge or the volume flow rate is equals to area into velocity, or it is equals to volume per unit time. Fine. So either you write area into velocity of the fluid flow, cross section area into velocity of the fluid flow, or you can write it as volume per unit time. So both are called as discharge. Okay.
Means sir, three formulas are same, sir.
Formulas, see, formula are different, but if you need to calculate discharge, let's say in any question, if you need to calculate discharge and you are only given the diameter of the pipe and the velocity of the fluid flow, okay, and if you need to calculate discharge, you will use this formula, area into velocity. Otherwise, in some
Okay,
question,
sir.
if you have been given volume and time, so you can use this formula to calculate discharge. Fine. Basically, this
Yes,
is not
sir.
a formula. This is the definition of discharge, that it is the rate of fluid flow through a particular cross section or volume per unit time. So that is the definition of discharge. Mathematically,
Yes.
when you perform some experiments, if you need to calculate discharge, so this is the way we calculate discharge. Right? We measure first the
Yes.
velocity of the fluid, and then we know the diameter of the pipe, so we can calculate area. Now, how to measure velocity of the fluid flow, that we will learn from a principle which we will learn in the coming classes. That principle is Bernoulli's principle. So from Bernoulli's principle, we'll see how to calculate velocity of the fluid flow. Right?
सर मास के केस में क्या होगा?
Mass के case में you have been given directly mass, or otherwise you know how to calculate mass. Okay, I have told you how to calculate mass. Mass is density into volume.
Yes.
Okay, if you know the density of the fluid and if you multiply it with volume, so that will be mass. So if you know volume and if you know the fluid, so you can know the density also. So if you multiply density with volume, you can get mass also. Fine.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So this is about discharge. Now, next topic we are going to consider here is continuity equation. And in today's class, I'll keep this continuity equation in one dimensional only. Right? So in one dimension, what is continuity equation? Let us try to see through a example. Let's say we have a pipe. Let's say we have a pipe or a cross section which is having a, you see the cross section is not same. The area of the cross section is not same. Area here is different and area here is different. Fine. So I can consider, let's say, if I write it somewhere here, area of this section 1 is, let's say it is A1. Okay, volume of the fluid flow, not the volume, sorry, velocity of the fluid flow, let's say VE. Velocity of the fluid flow is 1 here, and density of the fluid flow. See, we are assuming that the density should remain constant since we are studying about incompressible fluid flow. Right? So incompressible fluid flow density should remain constant. But for right now, for the assumption, I will consider that the density of the fluid at this section is rho1. Fine. Similar counterpart is here also. Area of the cross section at second section is A2. Velocity of the fluid flow is VE2. And the density at this cross section is rho2. Density of the fluid at this cross section is rho2. Fine. So what continuity equation says that? Continuity equation says that the whatever the mass of the fluid, or I can say whatever the volume flow rate at this section, whatever the volume flow rate at this section, let's say the volume flow rate at this section is Q1. Okay. If the volume flow rate at this section is Q1 and the volume flow rate at this section is Q2, so continuity equation says that Q1 should be equal to Q2. Q1 should be equal to Q2. Okay, so that means continuity equation says that you have also studied one of the very fundamental principle, that conservation of mass. Okay, you know, conservation of mass, that mass will remain conserved. It cannot be destroyed. It cannot be created. Fine. So whatever the mass of the fluid available at this section at a particular instant of time, so same mass should be available here also. Fine. So the mass will remain constant. So mass flow rate, now in terms of fluid flow, we are not talking about absolute mass. We are talking about mass flow rate. Fine. So the mass flow rate at this section should be same as the mass flow rate at this section. So that is the fundamental principle of conservation of mass. So according to that, Q1 should be equal to Q2. Okay. And you know what is Q1? Q1 is, I have told you, area at 1 into velocity at 1. Area into velocity is the discharge we have seen in the previous slide. So A1 V1 should be equal to A2 V2.
And sir, what is rho here?
We'll discuss about it. See, since this is in terms of volume, okay, this is in terms of volume flow rate. But since I'm talking about as a conservation of mass, so conservation of mass means the mass flow rate should be same. Let's say m.1 is the mass flow rate at first section, and m.2 is the mass flow rate at the second section. Okay, so according to conservation of mass, mass flow rate at both sections should be same. Now, what is mass flow rate? See, what is mass flow rate? We'll discuss here only. See, A1 into V1 is what? A1 into V1 is meter cube per second. We have discussed this in the previous slide. Area into velocity is meter cube per second. Clear? If you multiply with density, what is density? Kg per meter cube. Kg per meter cube. So what will happen? Meter cube get cancelled. Fine. So rho into area into velocity, you need to remember this thing. Rho A into V, density into area into velocity, that is equals to mass flow rate. Fine. So whenever you multiply density with volume, that is mass. Fine. But if you multiply density with area into volume, that will become mass flow rate. Fine. So I can say mass flow rate at 1 should be equal to mass flow rate at 2 at section 2. Fine. But since I'm assuming that the flow is incompressible, now if the flow is incompressible, what I can say? Density is constant. So in that case, I can assume that rho1 is equals to rho2. If I'm assuming that the flow is incompressible, I have told you we are going to deal with only incompressible flows. So in incompressible flows, change in density is negligible. Fine. So in that case, rho1 is equals to rho2. So both rho will get cancelled here. Fine. So I can say A1 V1 is equals to A2 V2. But this is applicable only for the incompressible fluid flow. This is applicable only for the incompressible fluid flow, while this is applicable for all types of flow. Fine. The top equation is applicable for all the flows, but this is applicable only for the incompressible flow, where we have assumed that density is same. Okay, if the density is different, I cannot apply this equation. I need to apply this equation here. Okay, but in this unit or in the coming units, we are only going to discuss about incompressible fluid flow, so we can use this equation. A1 V1 is equals to A2 V2.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes.
Sir, why you need to use continuity equations? Or which?
See, continuity equation say you can, like, if you know suppose if you know the cross section area of the pipe, okay, and if you know velocity at the inlet of something, let's say in case of turbine, okay, if you have a turbine, so turbine basically we use to calculate how much work is produced through the turbine. Fine. So work produced through the turbine, what happens in the turbine? At the inlet we have high kinetic energy. Okay, so kinetic energy is converted into mechanical work in case of turbine. Fine. So kinetic energy at the inlet and kinetic energy outlet will be different. at the inlet kinetic energy will be high, and at the outlet kinetic energy will be low. Fine. So whatever the change in kinetic energy, that will be equal to work done by the turbine. Fine. Now change in kinetic energy is because of the change in velocity. Fine. So you should know that if at the inlet velocity is v1, we should also be able to calculate what is the velocity at v2. And I can easily find what is the inlet area of the turbine, what is the outlet area of the turbine, and from using some meters, using some pitot tube or something, which we are going to discuss in the coming classes. If you know the inlet velocity, you can easily find the exit velocity. And if you can find the exit velocity, you can find the mechanical work done by the turbine. So that is the use of this continuity equation. Am I clear, or any further explanation is required?
No, sir. Done, sir.
No, sir, it's fine. Sir,
Oh, yes.
Sir, is there any condition to use of continuity equation as well?
There is only one condition. If we are talking about incompressible fluid flow, then only we can apply this particular equation. If this is a compressible fluid flow, like I was talking about aeroplanes, fine. So in that case, you cannot apply this equation. In that case, you have to apply this equation. But I'm telling you that in most of our examples, we are going to use incompressible fluid flow. So we are going to use this equation. Okay, that is the only condition.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, let's try to solve one numerical on continuity equation itself. Okay, this numerical states that the diameter of a pipe at two sections, section 1 and section 2. So these are the two sections. So there are different diameters. Fine. So this diameter at the section 1 is D1 10 centimeter and D2 is 15 centimeter. Find the discharge. Directly it has asked you find the discharge through the pipe. Fine. See, this is one such application also. When you go for you can say boring in your houses. Okay, so you need to you are very much focused about how much volume this boring or this particular construction will give you, how much volume of the water it will give. Right? So calculating discharge is also very critical in the water meters which are available in your houses. So that water meter also calculate discharge of the fluid. Okay. So therefore, calculating discharge is also very much critical to you can say judge how much is our usage of the particular fluid. Right? So that is why we need to calculate discharge, and for calculating discharge we need continuity equation. Fine. So let's try to see how we can solve this question. So it is asking us to find the discharge through the pipe if the velocity of the water flowing through the pipe at section 1. Now velocity at the inlet is given v1 5 meter per second, and it is asking v2. Fine. So two things need to calculate. Let us try to see what things are here. So first of all, whenever the numerical is given, first of all make the list of all the given things. Fine. So in the first line, two diameters are given, D1 and D2, but the diameter is not in the SI unit. So first convert it into SI units. So in SI units, 10 centimeter, 0.1 meter. So from diameter, it has calculated the cross section area at the section 1. Similarly, diameter D2 is given 15 centimeter. So from 15 centimeter, you can calculate cross section area of the second section A2, and velocity at the first section is given. Fine. So these things are given. You need to first calculate discharge. What will be the discharge? So for discharge, we have been given directly. We know the formula for discharge from continuity equation, from the definition of the discharge. The definition of the discharge is A1 V1 area into velocity. So discharge should be same. A discharge at Q1 and Q2 both are same. Sorry. See, discharge at Q1 and discharge at Q2. From continuity equation, I can say discharge is same at 1 and 2. Fine. So you can calculate discharge at any point. Either you can calculate discharge here or you can calculate discharge here. Fine. So Q1 will be A1 V1. Q1 will be A1 V1, while Q2 will be A2 V2. A2 V2. Now you tell me which one I should use, A1 V1 or A2 V2. For calculating discharge, see both are same, Q1, Q2 both are same, both are equal. Fine. So which one expression should I use, A1 V1 or A2 V2?
So A1 V1.
Why A1 V1?
So because of the velocity or area, दोनों available है.
Yes. See, both the parameters are available here, but here velocity V2 is not given. Fine. So therefore we should use A1 V1. Fine. So discharge at 1 is calculated, which is same as the discharge at 2. So total discharge through the pipe is this much, A1 into V1. That is one thing. Second, it is asking us to calculate the velocity at the outlet. Fine. So V2 is it is asking, fine, and we have only one relation for that, that is continuity equation. So A1 V1 should be equal to A.
Sir, why
Yes.
pipe area is written pi by 4d square, sir?
Because it is cross section area, na? This since it is a
Uh-huh.
pipe, so cross section area will be circle. Area of the circle is calculated.
Okay.
Okay.
Means we are not taking area of cylinder, sir.
No. See, it is given clearly. It is written, and I have also told you that in this case, area will be the cross section area of the pipe. Okay.
Okay, sir. Okay.
Make it a point that area will be cross section area in this cases.
Okay.
Right. So using the continuity equation, we can calculate V2 also. That as easy as this. This is a very simple question to calculate the discharge and the exit velocity. Let's move to the next question, which is a little complicated one also. Now in this case, what is happening? Again, it's a very, you can say, regular type of application which we perform in our many examples. Like there is a one common pipe, there is a one bigger pipe, okay, and I want to deliver water from one pipe to two houses. Okay, so this pipe will be, you can say, disintegrated into two sections, two channels. Fine. So pipe one is disintegrated into two channels, second and third. Fine. Now the condition of the fluid flow in this pipe 1 is given that the velocity in pipe 1, velocity of the fluid in pipe 1 is 2.5 meter per second, and diameter of the pipe 1 is 30 centimeter, that is given. Similarly, velocity in the pipe 2 is given and diameter of pipe 2 is given. You need to calculate what will be the velocity in pipe 3 if the diameter of the pipe 3 is this thing. This is one thing it is given, and let us see if I read the question what other things are required. Other thing is you also need to calculate the discharge in this pipe. Fine. If the discharge, let's say if the discharge in pipe 1 is Q1, and if the discharge in pipe 2 is Q2, and discharge in pipe Q3 is in 3 is Q3. So using continuity equation, what I can say that discharge at this section in the pipe 1, rate of flow of liquid in pipe 1 should be same as the rate of flow of liquid in these two pipes. So I can say Q1 should be equal to, because see the liquid is disintegrated, liquid is divided into two pipes, so I can say Q1 should be equal to Q2 plus Q3. Okay, so discharge of pipe 1 is divided to the two pipes 2 and 3, so I can say Q1 should be equal to Q2 and Q3. Fine. So this is one you can say concept you should understand from this particular case. Now I need to find discharge Q1. So Q1 you can easily find Q1 because the velocity is given and diameter is given. Fine. So from diameter you can calculate area, velocity is given. So you can easily find discharge. Discharge will be A1 into V1. Fine. So discharge you can calculate, but it is asking us to calculate discharge if the average velocity of the pipe is 30 centimeter. Okay. It is asking us to find the value of Q1 only because it is asking find the discharge in this pipe. In which pipe? This pipe means in the pipe where the diameter is 30 and the velocity is 2.5. So this is the same pipe. So it was asking us to calculate Q1. That is one thing. Second is it is also asking us to calculate V3. Now can somebody suggest me how to calculate V3?
So from the relation Q1 is equal to Q2 plus Q3.
Yes, okay. See, I have found Q1. Q1 will be A1 V1. You can also find Q2 because you know D2 and you know V2. So you can also find A2 V2. Okay. A2 into V2. You can find Q2 also. So from here you cannot find Q3 because V3 is not given, but you can find Q3 is equals to what? Q1 minus Q2.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Q3 will be equal to Q1 minus Q2. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So from there you will get Q3, and you know Q3 will be A3 V3. Okay. So A3 you can calculate, diameter is given, you can calculate V3. So it's again a simple question. See Q1, A1 V1 is Q1, Q2 is A2 V2 is Q2, and you can find Q3 from here. That will be Q1 minus Q2, that is Q3, and Q3 is what? A3 V3. So area you can calculate from the diameter, pi by 4d square. You can calculate V3. Okay. So initially it seems like a difficult question, but you can, if you read the question and if you understand the language of the question, you can easily solve this question also. Right?